and again, we're only kind of discovering some of that stuff that he was involved in, which maybe he was not exactly broadcasting, but made a lot of sense for him to do so. John Adams was a different story. Adams was essentially an Englishman. You know, he was he carried the old bigotry with him. I don't know if you've read McCullough's book, Adams. It's just called Adams, actually. That thing. It's a very good book. And while I enjoyed every page of it, I was appalled when I read the part at the very early on where Adams became actually prominent as a result of defending the British soldiers who were involved in the Boston Massacre. You're nodding your head.
Yeah.
And there was one quote there where he said in court that he got them off, as you know, and he in arguing that they should not be punished for what they did, he said that after all, the people that they killed and shot down in the dock there were merely Irish and mulattoes. They were merely Irish and mulattoes. So you could see that he came from the old Yankee world. You know, he was a barrister, and he'd grown up, or he from that old sort of right wing evangelical right. You know, what's her name? His wife. What's her name? Come on. Abigail. Abigail's father was a minister and came from a very religious family and so on. Very respectable family, but they had that old sort of. But what also you won't read in American history books, and these are just little snippets that I pull out for myself. That regiment, I wrote it down somewhere. It was called the 29th Regiment, actually. The 29th Regiment, I don't know why that's important, but anyway, the 29th Regiment that was involved in the Boston Massacre had previously been in Belfast. And it's kind of like the paratroopers turning up in Fallujah, who learned their trade in Belfast. So they would probably have gone after the Irish mob in Boston with a lot of relish, because they would have learned their. So we know that they brought with them a great deal of old English bias, bigotry, whatever you want to call it. So that's kind of, I say all of that because I'm drawing a difference between him and Benjamin Franklin. Old Ben really was, he probably he loved his wine, he loved his women, and you can't but like the guy.
There are letters.
What?
There are letters from John Adams.
Yeah.
To Benjamin Franklin when Franklin was in Paris.
Oh yeah.
That deal with his whining and
Yeah.
boring and talking about him. And he goes through sort of this string. One letter has this string of ethnic slurs of all the different lowlifes that Franklin and I'm
probably Irish too. He was hanging around with lowlife Irish in France.
The Irish and the Wops and the Mix.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you pick up on that too. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway.
He was a gem.
Pardon?
He was a gem.
Who? Ben? Oh yeah. Adams. Yeah, Adams was. He played a very important part. I much prefer John Quincy. I think Quincy was. I think he was a really great man. I think he was the young fellow.
He was central to the whole time. He was
John Quincy.
Yeah.
He was. Yeah. So one of the smart things that John Adams did was to bring the son with him to Europe and send him off all over the place. He was the most travelled person in the world. Very few people got around as much as John Quincy did. So he learned a tremendous amount. He spoke lots of languages, and when he was only a kid, he was like ambassador to Russia, that sort of thing. So yeah. Well, the other thing that I have always admired him for was when he was in Congress. There's still a law, apparently, or rule of the House to this day, that the first person in to Congress when they open the door can put down a resolution. And I'm not sure that anybody bothers, but that's the only way. If you turn up early enough in the morning, you go in there and you're the first guy in. If the Master of Arms opens the door, you can go down and lay down and they have to deal with it. And for 28 years, the guy turned up first every morning and went in and put down a resolution for the abolition of slavery. Every single day of his life. I mean, wow, think of that.
Every day for 28 years?
That's what I understand.
That's dedication.
That's unbelievable. I mean, that's a record that every American kid should know. That happened. There was a man. He understood the evils of slavery. And as I said, he just went in there. An old guy sat down. Oh yeah, it's old. Anyway, at least that's what I've heard. I hope it's true. I love the story. I hope it's a. If it's not, we'll make it true. The Irish have if a story is not worth embellishing, it's not worth telling. But anyway, I understand there's a lot of truth in that. He may have missed a day or two, I don't know. But anyway, there's a lot of little stuff that I've made notes here. This is just something I printed out, my own notes. I'll see if I can see if the stuff that I the most important thing that I wanted to actually get across tonight was the consciousness of the interdependence of the two movements. We forget that, and the English understood it. America forgot about it because America got their independence, and Ireland, where is that? Somewhere over there. So it kind of got forgotten. But the Irish who fought at Valley Forge and my brain is no, in the final battle with Cornwallis when he handed in his sword. Yorktown. Thank you, Yorktown. And so on. They really, to them, the two were identical. Being an American and being Irish were identical, the same thing. There was no difference. And to this way, I feel the same way. A lot of Irish feel that way. There's no, you don't feel, it's just as much our country as Ireland is. And certainly the idea of a republic is, entirely. So, the identity, the English see America as a foreign country, it's different, but we don't. We've always made it our own. We know that. It may not be obvious from the outside, but I think it is understood in America. But it's kind of unfortunate that it didn't translate into independence in Ireland in 1792, or 1790, at the same time. But the English understood it. Cornwallis is credited with having said, when he was put in charge of putting down the rebellion in Ireland, he says, I lost a continent. He says, I'm damn well not going to lose Ireland. I'm not going to lose this little island. So he was extremely determined, whatever it took, he was going to hang on to that. So remember, he was the guy, Cornwallis. It was kind of interesting, a lot of the characters that were involved in the 1798, we're not talking about that, we've done it lots of times, the 1798 rebellion, crossed backwards and forwards, like Lord Pakenham, who Jackson fought in New Orleans. Yeah, was the commander, the second only. He was the guy who defeated Humbert, the French guy at the command, and in Ireland. So a lot of those characters, and by the way, it might have been an Irishman who got him, because as you know, he lost his life at the Battle of New Orleans, Lord Longford. Actually, they're not a bad family. The Longfords, I personally knew one of the girls, one of the family worked with me I worked with in ATV in London in the 60s, and she was a lady, you know, she had a title and everything, and she worked in the television company, the company I did. So I got to, because I used to talk to her, she was very interested in me because I was Irish and she considered herself Irish, even though she lived in London. But it was very interesting that they had this pride about being Irish. So the Longfords are by no means the worst of the Irish descendants. There was a lot of families actually in the Irish ascendancy in Ireland that were actually quite good, respectable people, including, by the way, Lord Edward Fitzgerald, who of course came from the absolute royalty, if you like, of the old Irish aristocracy. And he, the English very foolishly appointed him as Lord Lieutenant. We say lieutenant, you know,